I overheard my fiancée laughing with her brother in our bedroom. Turns out they'd been having an affair for 8 months. I moved to a new city and started over. I never thought I'd be in this situation, but here I am, pouring my heart out to strangers on the internet. My name is Alex, 28M, and I'm about to tell you how my life crumbled in a matter of months. I met Dorothy, 27F, during our sophomore year of college. We were both biology majors, struggling through organic chemistry together. I remember the first time I saw her. She was bent over a microscope, her dark hair falling in waves around her face, completely absorbed in her work. I was immediately drawn to her intensity and focus. Our relationship started slowly. We were lab partners first, then study buddies. Late nights in the library turned into coffee dates, which eventually became dinner dates. Dorothy was everything I could have wanted in a partner, brilliant, driven, and with a wicked sense of humor that never failed to make me laugh. We graduated together, both landing entry-level jobs at pharmaceutical companies in the same city. It felt like everything was falling into place. We moved in together after dating for 3 years, renting a small but cozy apartment downtown. Our life together was comfortable and happy. We had our routines, Sunday brunches, movie nights on Wednesdays, and weekend hikes when the weather was good. Dorothy's family became like my own. Her parents, Mark and Sarah, welcomed me with open arms. They were warm, kind people who made me feel at home from the first time I met them. And then there was Ethan, 24M, Dorothy's younger brother. He was still in college when Dorothy and I started dating, studying computer science. Despite the age difference, Ethan and I hit it off immediately. We bonded over our shared love of video games and obscure sci-fi movies. He became the little brother I never had. As the years passed, our careers progressed. Dorothy was climbing the ranks at her company, impressing everyone with her innovative research. I was doing well too, but I couldn't help feeling a bit overshadowed by her success. Still, I was proud of her and supported her every step of the way. It was on our 6th anniversary that I decided to propose. I spent months planning the perfect surprise, enlisting the help of our families and friends. I even asked Ethan to help me pick out the ring, knowing he had a good sense of Dorothy's taste. We spent a whole Saturday going from jeweler to jeweler until we found the perfect one, a vintage-inspired diamond ring that I knew Dorothy would love. The proposal itself was elaborate. I set up a scavenger hunt around the city, each location significant to our relationship. The final stop was the rooftop garden where we had our first kiss. I was on one knee when she arrived, surrounded by candles and flowers. When I asked her to marry me, she said yes, and for a moment, everything was perfect. We celebrated with our loved ones afterward. I remember looking around the room at all the smiling faces, our parents, our friends, Ethan, and feeling like the luckiest man alive. If only I had known what was coming. That night, as we lay in bed, Dorothy turned to me with tears in her eyes. I thought they were happy tears at first, but the look on her face told me otherwise. She confessed that she had been having doubts about our relationship for the past year. She said she loved me, but she wasn't sure if she was in love with me anymore. I was blindsided. We had never had any major issues, and she had never expressed any doubts before. I asked her why she had said yes to my proposal if she felt this way. She said she had hoped that taking this step would rekindle her feelings, that maybe her doubts were just pre-commitment jitters. We decided to postpone announcing our engagement and work on our relationship. We started going on more dates, trying new things together, and even went to a couples workshop. I threw myself into making our relationship work, determined to reignite the spark we once had. Things seemed to be improving. Dorothy was more affectionate, more engaged. We were talking more, laughing more. I started to feel hopeful again. I thought we were on the right track. About 2 months after the proposal, I came home early from work. I had managed to score tickets to Dorothy's favorite band's concert, and I wanted to surprise her. As I walked into our apartment, I heard voices coming from our bedroom. I recognized Dorothy's laugh, but the other voice made my blood run cold. It was Ethan. I stood outside the bedroom door, frozen in place. I heard them talking and laughing intimately. Then, silence. I couldn't bring myself to open the door. My mind was racing, trying to come up with innocent explanations for what I was hearing. But deep down, I knew. I quietly left the apartment and went to a nearby park, where I sat for hours, trying to process what I had just heard. The sun was setting by the time I finally returned home. Dorothy was in the kitchen, acting as if nothing was wrong. She smiled when she saw me, asked about my day. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I confronted her about what I had heard. At first, she tried to deny it, saying Ethan had just stopped by to drop off some books. But when I pressed her, describing exactly what I had heard, she broke down. Dorothy admitted that she and Ethan had been having an affair for the past 8 months. It started when we were going through a rough patch, and Ethan had comforted her. One thing led to another, and before they knew it, they were in too deep. I felt like I was living in a nightmare. Not only had my fiancée cheated on me, but she had done it with my future brother-in-law, someone I considered a friend. The betrayal was overwhelming. I packed a bag and left that night, staying with a college buddy who lived nearby. The next few days were a blur. I called in sick to work and barely ate or slept. Dorothy kept calling and texting, begging me to come home so we could talk. I ignored her messages, needing time to think. A week after I left, I received a call from Mark and Sarah, Dorothy's parents. They wanted to know why I had moved out and why Dorothy was so upset. I realized she hadn't told them the truth. In that moment, I made a decision. I told them everything. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Finally, Sarah spoke, her voice shaking with anger and disappointment. She apologized profusely and said they would talk to Dorothy and Ethan. Mark got on the phone too, assuring me that this behavior was not something they condoned or had ever expected from their children. Now, it's been 2 weeks since I found out about the affair. I'm still staying with my friend, trying to figure out what to do next. Dorothy has stopped calling, but Ethan has started. He's left voicemails apologizing and begging for forgiveness. I haven't listened to any of them fully. Our friends are divided. Some are supportive of me, while others think I should give Dorothy another chance. They say everyone makes mistakes, that 8 years of relationship shouldn't be thrown away over one indiscretion. But to me, it wasn't just one indiscretion. It was 8 months of lying and betrayal. My parents are furious. They want me to cut all ties with Dorothy and her family. My mom, in particular, is heartbroken. She had always thought of Dorothy as the daughter she never had. I'm lost and don't know what to do. Part of me still loves Dorothy and wants to believe we can work through this. We've been through so much together, college, starting our careers, building a life. But another part of me knows that the trust is irreparably broken. How can I ever look at Ethan again without feeling betrayed? How can I ever trust Dorothy when she's alone with her brother? I'm considering making a drastic change. My company has an office in Seattle, and I've always loved the Pacific Northwest. I've been thinking about requesting a transfer. Maybe a fresh start in a new city is what I need. But is running away the answer? I need advice. Am I overreacting by considering such a drastic move? Should I give Dorothy another chance? How do I deal with the betrayal from both my fiancée and her brother? Any insights would be appreciated. Update 1. It's been a month since my last post, and I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. Your words have been a lifeline during this difficult time. After much soul-searching and several long conversations with my closest friends and family, I decided not to give Dorothy another chance. The trust was broken, and I realized I deserved better than someone who could betray me like that. I called Dorothy and asked to meet in person to tell her my decision. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop we used to frequent. Seeing her again was harder than I expected. She looked tired and sad, a far cry from the vibrant woman I fell in love with. I told her that I couldn't continue our relationship. She cried and begged for another chance, saying she had made a horrible mistake and that she truly loved me. She said she had ended things with Ethan for good and was willing to do anything to regain my trust. I almost wavered. For a moment, I could see our future together, the life we had planned, the family we had talked about. But then I remembered the sound of her laughing with Ethan in our bedroom, and my resolve strengthened. I told her I was moving out permanently and that she had 2 weeks to find a new place to live. Our lease was in my name, and I had decided to keep the apartment for now. She protested at first, saying it wasn't fair to make her move out, but eventually agreed. The day I went to collect my things was one of the hardest of my life. Dorothy was there, watching silently as I packed up 6 years of my life. It was surreal, going through our shared possessions, deciding what to take and what to leave behind. As I was about to leave, Dorothy handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter explaining everything, how the affair started, why she didn't end it, and how sorry she was. She asked me to read it when I was ready. I haven't read it yet. I'm not sure if I ever will. As for Ethan, he showed up at my workplace a week after I moved out. I was leaving the office when I saw him waiting by my car. He looked terrible, dark circles under his eyes, unkempt hair, and clothes that looked like they hadn't been washed in days. He started apologizing the moment he saw me, saying he had ruined everything and that he would do anything to make it right. I let him talk for a few minutes before I finally spoke. I told him that he had not only betrayed me but also his own sister. I said I never wanted to see or hear from him again. The look on his face when I said that will stay with me for a long time. It was a mixture of guilt, shame, and desperation. As I drove away, I saw him sink to the ground in the rearview mirror. Mark and Sarah called me a few days later. They apologized again for their children's behavior and said they understood if I never wanted to speak to them again. But they also said they considered me family and hoped that someday, we could rebuild our relationship. I thanked them for their kindness but told them I needed time and space. On a more positive note, I've decided to take the job in Seattle. When I approached my boss about the possibility of a transfer, he was surprisingly understanding. He knew about my situation, word travels fast in a small company, and said he thought a fresh start might be good for me. He fast-tracked the transfer, and I'm moving in 2 weeks. I'm both terrified and excited about the move. I've never lived outside of my home state, and the thought of starting over in a new city is daunting. But it also feels liberating. Seattle represents a clean slate, a chance to reinvent myself. I've started seeing a counselor to help me process everything. It's been helpful to have someone objective to talk to about my feelings of betrayal and anger. She's been helping me work through my trust issues and fears about future relationships. As for our friends, most have been supportive of my decision to move. A few have tried to convince me to give Dorothy another chance, but I've stood firm. I've also had to cut ties with a couple of friends who knew about the affair and didn't tell me. Their betrayal, while not as deep as Dorothy and Ethan's, still stings. I'm looking forward to starting fresh in Seattle. I know it won't be easy, and there will be days when I miss my old life. But I also know that this is the right decision for me. I'm ready to close this chapter of my life and start writing a new one. Thank you all again for your support. I'll update again once I'm settled in Seattle. Update 2. It's been 3 months since I moved to Seattle, and I wanted to give you all an update on how things are going. The move itself was exhausting but liberating. Packing up my life and saying goodbye to the city I'd called home for so long was harder than I expected. I found myself getting emotional over the smallest things, my favorite coffee shop, the park where Dorothy and I used to have picnics, even the quirky doorman in my old apartment building. But as soon as I arrived in Seattle, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The city welcomed me with its iconic rainy weather, which felt oddly fitting for my mood. My new apartment is small but has a view of the Space Needle. It's not much, but it's mine, and it doesn't hold any painful memories. My new job has been keeping me busy, which I'm grateful for. The Seattle office is smaller than my old one, which has allowed me to get to know my colleagues more quickly. They've been welcoming, and I'm enjoying the challenge of a new role. The company has a great work culture, and I've already made a few friends. I've been slowly furnishing my apartment and making it feel like home. It's been a process of rediscovering my own tastes without Dorothy's influence. I've hung up some local artwork and filled my bookshelves with novels I've always meant to read but never found the time for. As for my personal life, I'm taking things slow. I've been on a few casual dates, nothing serious. It's been nice to meet new people and remember that there's life after Dorothy. But I'm also enjoying my own company and focusing on healing. I finally read Dorothy's letter about a month after I moved. It was hard to read, but it gave me some closure. She explained how she and Ethan had grown closer while helping plan our engagement, and how one drunken night had led to more. She said she had wanted to end it many times but couldn't bring herself to hurt either of us. In the end, her explanation didn't change anything, but it helped me understand a little better. Dorothy has reached out a few times since I moved. At first, it was to ask if we could try again, but when I remained firm in my decision, her messages became more about checking in and apologizing. I've been polite but distant in my responses. Ethan, on the other hand, has respected my wish for no contact. I heard through mutual friends that he moved back home with his parents and is seeking help for depression. Part of me feels sorry for him, but I remind myself that he made his choices. I've stayed in touch with Mark and Sarah. They've been incredibly kind throughout this whole ordeal, and I've found their support comforting. They recently sent me a care package full of my favorite snacks from back home, which was a touching gesture. Overall, I'm doing better than I expected. There are still days when the pain and anger resurface, but they're becoming less frequent. I'm learning to trust again, both others and myself. I'm looking forward to exploring more of Seattle and building a new life here. Thank you all for your continued support and kind words. It means more than you know. Update 3. It's been a year since I moved to Seattle, and what a year it's been. I want to thank everyone who has followed my journey and offered support along the way. Life in Seattle has become home. The city's rhythm has become my own, the morning rush for coffee, the weekend crowds at Pike Place Market, the peaceful evenings watching the sunset over Puget Sound. I've even gotten used to the rain, though I still grumble about it sometimes. I've settled into my job nicely and even received a promotion last month. The project I've been working on for the past 6 months was a success, and my boss recognized my hard work. It feels good to be acknowledged for my efforts, especially after feeling overshadowed by Dorothy for so long in our old company. I've made some great friends here, both at work and through various hobby groups I've joined. I've taken up hiking and have been exploring the beautiful Pacific Northwest on weekends. There's something therapeutic about being out in nature, surrounded by towering trees and breathtaking vistas. It's helped me find peace and perspective. As for my personal life, I have some news. About 4 months ago, I met someone. Her name is Mia, 29F, and we met at a local bookstore. We were both reaching for the same book, a new release by our favorite sci-fi author. We ended up talking for hours over coffee, bonding over our shared love of science fiction and terrible B-movies. We've been dating since then. It's still early days, but I'm happy. Mia knows about my past, and she's been incredibly understanding and patient. She doesn't push me to open up more than I'm comfortable with, and she's been supportive as I work through my lingering trust issues. We're taking things slow, but for the first time in a long time, I'm excited about the possibility of a future with someone. Dorothy reached out again last month. She told me she was engaged to someone new and wanted me to hear it from her rather than through the grapevine. I appreciated her thoughtfulness and wished her well. The news didn't hurt as much as I thought it would, which I take as a sign of how far I've come. I haven't heard from Ethan directly, but Dorothy mentioned that he's doing better. He's back in school, finishing his degree, and has been sober for 6 months. I'm glad he's getting his life back on track. While I don't think I'll ever be able to forgive him completely, I no longer harbor the intense anger I once did. Mark and Sarah visited me in Seattle a couple of months ago. It was nice to see them, and we had a good time catching up. They've become like surrogate parents to me, and I'm grateful for their continued presence in my life. They met Mia during their visit and seemed to like her, which meant more to me than I expected. Looking back on the past year, I'm proud of how far I've come. The pain of betrayal has faded, replaced by gratitude for the lessons I've learned and the strength I've discovered in myself. I've rebuilt my life in a new city, advanced in my career, made new friends, and even opened my heart to the possibility of love again. That's not to say everything is perfect. I still have moments of doubt and insecurity. Sometimes, I catch myself waiting for the other shoe to drop with Mia, expecting betrayal around every corner. But I'm working on it. I'm learning to trust my instincts again and to believe that not everyone will hurt me the way Dorothy and Ethan did. To anyone going through a similar situation, I want to say, it gets better. It's not easy, and there will be tough days, but you're stronger than you know. Don't be afraid to lean on your support system and to put yourself first. Sometimes, a fresh start is exactly what you need to heal and grow. Thank you all again for being part of my journey. Your support has meant the world to me. While this might be my last update for a while, know that I'm doing well and looking forward to what the future holds.